What's up, YouTube? Episode 58, here we go. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. If you aren't already subscribed. Adina's on her phone, but we're good.
I know, I just got a message. I was like, what is those snacks?
Tatiana's right here. James is back there eating a hamburger. I can't see. Hamburger from McDonald's.
Yeah. Did you get the fries? Those are the best.
They
Gotta
are
get the
the
fries.
My fries today weren't that great.
Whataburger's the best. If you
No,
guys aren't from Texas,
McDonald's fries are better.
Whataburger's
They're crispier than Whataburger.
Oh, I like soggy fries.
No.
Guys,
Crisp.
welcome to 58th
Heat.
episode. Go follow us.
The 8th episode?
Whataburger's fries are always cold.
58. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm singing. But not I'm drunk and I want to go home. Last week that's what the song that stuck in my
Oh, I
head.
thought you said you were drunk and you want to go home.
That was the song I was singing last week. This week is Jody Messina. I'm alright.
Are you ready?
Good.
Sorry.
There we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Made for More Consulting podcast, where we talk leadership and personal development. And we are excited that you're here. So if this is your very first time, welcome to this podcast. I hope that you take something from it and it helps you, whether in a leadership role or a personal development role, or maybe just share this podcast with a leader or a boss or whatever you want. But we are so excited that you're here. Thanks for joining us. Episode 58. Adina, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here. You know, one thing I think that we don't say enough is that sharing like an episode of a podcast is a really good way to open up like a dialogue
Yep.
between you and like a teammate or your boss or whatever. Just, hey, I heard this. Tell me what you
Yeah.
think about it.
So if my cousin is listening, she is a first sergeant in the Army. And I'm not going to mention her name, but she is a first sergeant and she uses some of our podcasts to initiate conversation with her team.
It's a very non-threatening way.
Yeah.
To just
Especially if
open
we're
the
going
door
over
of
a
the
book, right,
conversation.
that you don't want to read. It's like the cliff notes. So you go, hey, they're talking about cover and move. How to keep it simple.
And how does that apply to our,
Yep.
you know,
Yes, so
situation?
episode 58, we're reading a book called Iron Sharpened Leadership. If you're just now joining us, we cover books, we have guests, but right now we are on the last two episodes of Iron Sharpened Leadership. It's by John L. Gronsky, Major General of the U.S. Army. He's retired, and it's probably, I keep saying this over and over again,
That's book.
the best, most underrated leadership book.
And you know, one thing I did not realize about him until I listened to another podcast about him is that he really has lived like a whole other life. You know,
Yeah.
I think he talks about it in this one. He owned a bike shop. He biked across the world. I mean, like the US. He has like a whole, you know, whatever. But I'm like, I was thinking, wow,
Yeah.
like he really has done a lot besides being
bike shop,
in the
retail,
military.
owning a business, but military.
Like
Like you said.
consultant.
Yep, there you go. So if you haven't listened to us before and this is your first podcast and someone's shared it with you, let us know. Email us at info@madeformoreconsulting.com or let us know by following us on social media and just DM us. And
I always say if
you
this
may
is
get
your
a
first
free
time.
t-shirt.
Oh, really?
I just
We're
delivered
going back to that. Surprise!
2 free t-shirts to our buddy,
Oh, nice.
a guy. I need to adjust that on inventory because Tatiana's over here making
I know. She just made eyes at you.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw her.
Yeah, and apparently his wife loved the shirts. So
Gave you a look.
So here we go. But yeah, listen to us. And she knows what I'm talking about because she has access to the social media and it's in the DMs on Instagram. So, anyways, appreciate you guys listening. And here we go, episode 58. We don't read the entire book, and if this is your first time,
Listen to episode number 1 to hear what we're all about, and episode called Adina Calls the Shots,
27.
number 27. So you didn't write that on there for
I
me.
know. I'm glad you're learning. So, Iron Sharpened Leadership, small chapters, very small chapters.
Well, this book is divided into a couple of different sections. We have, you know, character, competence, and resilience. And right now we're talking about the competence part.
Last
This was like the
chapters,
longest,
competence.
section was
Yeah,
the competence
yeah,
section.
really good stuff. So here we go, chapter 25. It's called Iron Sharpens Iron, and if you don't know where that comes from, that is a proverb in the Bible. It's iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another.
Yeah, he talks about in this chapter 25 how that came into play.
Yeah, he talks about the fact that there is no I in team. He brings up the word that starts with I for me. That is probably the most underrated word when you're hiring someone. This is the one word that I always look for and ask when I'm hired. When I was in my former role, I would always ask what this means, and if I'm having to help someone hire for their team, this is the one word that starts with I that I ask, what does this mean to you? And it's the word initiative.
I think it's also one of those words that distinguishes like somebody that is better. Like if you have two people and they're doing the same job and one person has initiative and the other one doesn't, the one that has initiative is going to be the one that moves up faster.
I think so, because they're always looking for something to do, right? And I said I believe without initiative, there's lack of planning and execution. So if you're a leader and you don't have initiative, I think your people are going to get bored, and you're probably only going to go as far as you are right now, which is you don't have initiative to plan. Just think about it. If I'm a leader that doesn't really care and I've just inherited this role, there's no
Maybe
planning.
we should do a podcast on what makes you lose your initiative as a leader.
I'll write that down.
Okay, good. That's good.
Me
That's
and
good.
Tiana will.
Yes.
What makes you lose your initiative?
Yeah, because if you think about like leaders, there's a lot of leaders that in certain roles or certain environments they had a ton of initiative. Like they were very driven, they were very motivated, and they get put in. Well, I know. I mean, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you deal with that? Because that's probably very frustrating as a leader to be in a place where you feel like you have like more initiative inside of you, but you can't.
Yeah, like you get to work and you're like, oh.
Here we go again.
Yeah, but I mean, even you take it down to the practical level. If you're a person with initiative, or you're listening to this, you go, how do I take initiative? Don't stand around. Like, always ask, what can I do to help today? Or, I hate to be the person that if everybody's working and you're going, I don't know what to do because everybody has a job, but there is initiative going to, hey, what can I do for you?
Well, first make sure that you've gotten all of your stuff done, because you gotta have that initiative first.
Yeah. So I think this is the ultimate team motto, and he talks about clinging to the verse that says, "As iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another." He talks about this verse, and he talks through people that since he's retired, I mean, he brings this verse up over and over and over again, and that's the title of the book, Iron Sharpens Leadership, meaning it's always going to go back to team for him. It's always going to go back to team, and the fact that when you're on a team, if people take initiative, everyone has their back. And it all starts with initiative and being willing to put the work, willing to put in the work to plan so that the values and the actions all match up as a team. So as a leader, if you take initiative, have your values, have a plan, have a schedule, and make it all go in the same direction.
Wow. I mean, I think that's the way to do it. You get everything together, go in the same direction.
Yep.
One of the things he talked about right before that was that your past influences your future. And basically what he was saying there was that your past is important, but it all goes back to your why, which I thought, like, here again, he's bringing it all back together.
Yeah, because your why is bigger than your past,
That's
and it's
right.
bigger than your future, and you got to be doing something with it. So iron sharpens iron. Again, chapter 25 is pretty simple. As iron sharpens iron, so does one person sharpen another. I think I'm not going to mention all the action steps, but on that one I really didn't have any outside of is there teamwork going on in your team. Like you'd be able to know if you're the leader to go, hey, we have a really good team vibe, or if not, maybe there's some chain links that aren't linking up and there's just some gaps. So chapter 25, that was it. Chapter 26, is there power in the question mark?
I thought, I'm just gonna stop right there. I thought that was kind of a weird name. Like they're asking a question about a question. I just was like, I mean,
Is there power in the
yeah,
question
I
mark?
guess, but
Yeah.
there is power in the question.
But he's asking you, is there
I know.
power in the question mark?
I know.
And I think, to me, this should be common sense. Like, I think it should be common sense for every leader to know about questions,
Ask a question.
right? Asking
Yes.
questions. So, you want to read that quote?
Hold on, before I read the quote. But I also hate when somebody answers a question with a question,
Why?
because that means that they don't have an answer.
Rather than just
I'm
saying,
asking
hey, let
you
me
a
think about
question.
it.
Answer it. Don't turn around and ask me, like, hey, what are we going to do about next Friday night? I don't know. What do you think we should do about next Friday night? No, I'm asking you, what are we going to do? It
But,
drives me insane.
yeah, like, hey, where are we going to go eat?
I hate it.
My wife says, where do you want to go eat?
No, don't
And then I
answer.
go, Pluckers or...
And then she says, no.
No.
Okay, the quote says, there is a great deal of power in asking a question. When you ask a question, You harness an irrefutable natural law. There is no stopping the effect this law will have on the human psyche.
So that means, man, that he's trying to get you back to think a question. Asking someone a question is probably one of the most powerful things you can do, because you're making them think, but you're also getting insight into the way they think. And it's not just the way you're thinking of things. So
I mean, I think that when you're leading somebody, asking them questions, especially like for clarification, where you're like, just ask them questions about themselves, about the project, 100%.
yeah, the question is just a powerful source that maybe hasn't been tapped into, and it's asking questions of the team. And you have to put your ego aside to go, hey, I don't have all the answers. So if you're the leader, again, ask your team what they think. Ask them how they're doing things. Use the question to be a powerful source of knowledge that you have to tap into. I think some people's minds think this way all the time because they're like in marketing and they're constantly asking questions. And I think Etiana is a good example of that, to go, hey, when you make a post or when you make a story on Reels or TikTok, always leave there asking a question, right? And it's the same thing at the end of a meeting. Hey, what am I leaving here with? What am I trying to get them to leave here with? What do I need to ask them to come back with next week? Wow, I'm yawning, sorry, excuse me. So whatever you do, whether it's a thank you note, I like that he said that sometimes when he sends handwritten notes, he writes a question at the end of the thank you note just to say, hey, when will I see you again? Or hey, do you think we can meet up in the next month? So yeah, like he asks a question. Same thing in posts, a picture, ask a question. He says engage others. And I think one of the things that most people are going for right now in social media and that you hear everywhere is engagement.
Well, one of the things he says is try leading through asking questions rather than directing a follower. And I thought, okay, that's what it is. We're gonna ask the questions instead of just telling you,
Yeah, hey, go get this done, rather than, hey, what are you working on? And what do you think you're really good at?
When he talks about how engagement strengthens the relationships between the boss and the colleagues.
The way I learned it was a bridge when you're doing communication and you're building the bridge and that person has to cross over. And so the questions are the ones that are building the bridge, so that when they answer and they're walking towards you and the bridge is built, so you got your communication across. But if you don't ask the right questions and you're not communicating correctly,
it's just one-sided.
Yep, and you're waiting for them to cross over, but your ownership says, hey, you didn't really put through the effort. So action step, I just said, are we asking enough open-ended, not just questions, but open-ended questions to our teams, our colleagues, and ourselves? Meaning, have you sat down and asked yourself, like, what am I trying to accomplish by the end of this week? In my relationships with my family, with my colleagues, with my job, what do I need to accomplish this week or today? So the answer to is there power in the question mark?
Yes, that's the answer.
That's the answer.
I don't know, Mario, is there power in the question
Yes,
mark?
there is. Yes, I think it's common sense, but we just got to remember, regardless if you're using social media or you're in a meeting, make sure you ask questions as a leader, especially and also as a follower. Like I guess some people don't want people to ask questions because you're that person in the class that just keeps asking questions. Why? Well, you need to be that.
Drives me. No, like you got the Betty who just keeps asking like
Betty?
questions
Who the
over
frick is
and
Betty?
over.
Why did you use Betty?
Because we always had a name. Like you give like a Karen, that's a Betty. A Betty's the one who's always like asking the question over and over and over and over.
I guess.
I hate that.
No, ask questions, please. Clarification all the time. Chapter 27. Build it right, not built. Build it right, and they will come. Instead of the movie.
Build it, and they will come.
Yeah, but this says build it right, and they will come. Leaders don't command and control. Listen to that. If you're a leader and you're freaking commanding and controlling, you're not a leader. It says leaders don't command and control. They serve and support.
That's a good definition of leadership.
Right? Serve and support is leadership. That's influence, not manipulation. So if you think if you're a commander or controlling everything, you might want to put yourself
Well, I think sometimes leaders think that for it to be done right, they have to do it.
Yeah, true. Which is control. Right.
Right.
Yeah, I thought this chapter was really good because it's teaching us practical ways to think about business and building a brand or a business for a brand or a brand for a business. It's pretty legit. It says build it and they will come on the movie Field of Dreams. Great movie, but he says build it right and they will come. He gives us a pretty good strategy to building like the business, like practical steps. He uses the letters PIQ, right?
Which kind of like starts with purpose, which I feel like we talk about this all the time. but you have to start with your why. They
So
have
you're
to know
starting
your
a
purpose.
business.
Mhm.
PIQ starts with purpose. So what's the why? Do your teams, like if you have a business, do your teams even know your why? Are they leading blindly? Are they just walking blindly? Do they not know about what's going on? Do they not know how their role fits into the purpose? So no one wants to be a part of somewhere where they're not going somewhere. So the purpose is what guides them there.
And you have to communicate the purpose in a clear, consistent fashion.
Yeah, which means if you communicate your purpose once a year, that's not consistent enough.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, I think every day there's parts that have to tie into someone's, like if you do
Right.
huddles once a week, or if you do them every day with different team members.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about making sure that your analytics, your metrics line up with your purpose. And I
There you
think
go.
that's another way to just consistently build that in.
Yeah, why am I doing what I'm doing? If an employee asks you that, or a team member, and you can't connect it to the purpose, that's a flag, that's a red
We've
flag.
said this multiple times, like sit down and ask your team, what's our purpose?
Yeah.
And see what they say.
Or why do you do what you do? And if they can't connect it to the purpose, again, these are just some things that we gotta think through. He's saying things over and over again that we've read in other books, but it's so interesting because it sounds like if we get these things right, success will happen.
And he makes it very basic, like this. It's like more of a checklist.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
underneath purposes, he says, remember he says to talk about the wins.
yes,
That we
that's
can't
right.
just share our why consistently, but we must share the wins.
Yes, he does.
Wins for each department, wins for each person. Why should we focus on wins though?
Because it gives people, it reminds them that they're a part of something bigger. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's good. So the P is purpose, the I is integrity.
Yes.
What's the
Doing
definition?
what is right even when no one is watching. And there's another definition that says acting for what is right regardless of the risk.
I think that's awesome.
I like that
because-
one. I hadn't heard it like that before.
Read it again.
Acting for what is right regardless of risk.
Yeah.
And then he says, I like to think of integrity as being honest and transparent with people, and I believe integrity is the foundation of good, strong character.
Again, here's what's crazy though, is when you talk about what you just read, it's influence or manipulation. Influence says you're doing what's right for people all the time, without expecting something in return.
Regardless of risk.
Yeah, and regardless of risk. So integrity, influence, it's all leadership.
And he also ties it into you have to have trust, and that's how trust is built.
And it's the same way with customers, right? So if you own a business and you're trying to manipulate your customers and you're not being like totally transparent, at some point they're gonna find out, they're gonna go, oh, well, you're screwing me to just.
So I thought this was a really good quote to think about with relationships and even in business. Integrity and trust take time to grow, but can be broken in a heartbeat. Trust must be treated like a precious and fragile treasure. But it was the point that we spend all of this time trying to build trust,
Yeah.
amongst our teams, and it just takes one thing to be broken.
Yeah, and I think when someone says, hey, I want to start a business or a company, or they have an idea to do something, I think they want all that really quick. Like, oh, why can't they trust me? Or why can't they do this? I'm sorry, but you're building something that's bigger than you, and they want to know that they can trust you, which means it's going to take time. And it means sharing your purpose consistently, being the right person with your values and all that stuff to go. You got to be consistent every day, day in and day out. And I also put it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate as a leader.
Yes.
Tolerating whether you're manipulating someone or they're manipulating someone or your team's manipulating someone or they're influencing people. So the P is purpose, the I is integrity, and the Q is quality. Now most people may think that quality starts with the product, but it's not. He goes back to hiring. Like everything starts with hiring, and that's one thing that I learned from the very beginning of my world was everything starts with hiring. Even if you are over volunteers and you're not really hiring people,
Mhm.
it's a quality of person that you want on your team.
Well, and he talks about hiring and the retention process. Like you have to get the right employees, but then you have to retain them. Which that's the whole is treating
So how do
them
you
right.
retain them?
Well, I think it's just what we've said. It's building that trust. It's integrity. It's all of those things, not manipulating them, being
Yeah.
authentic. All the things that we've talked about all through this book and several other books. That's what people want.
Yeah, they want to be developed though too, right? Like I want to know where I'm going and what you're going to do for me. And they're not trying to be selfish. They're just going, I'm about to sign a contract or something with you. where are we going?
Well, I don't even know if most people even think about like, oh, I want to be developed. I think it may be to just like, it's like something inside of you that's like, I don't want to stay the same. You know,
Yeah.
I want to grow. I want to be different.
You're made for more.
Yes.
Made for more.
That's
So
why we're here.
hiring quality people has to be top priority. And if you already have high quality people, then I put train, and develop. Take ownership of the people that are on your team and that you have and make the most of them, because if not, they're gonna go find somewhere else to work because someone else is developing them.
I like that you said take ownership of the people on your team. I think that's a good, like as a leader, a good thought that is your responsibility. You know, your ownership is of the people on your team.
Yeah.
And
I
developing them.
keep going back to even if they're volunteers, like they have
Yes.
40 hours a week jobs, right? But if they're volunteering with you, whether it's a nonprofit or whatever, don't be sorry that they're with you. Make them have a reason to come work for you and go, hey, we're gonna go over this today, and share some leadership with them. Do something that makes them develop.
But yeah, make them better.
Yeah, so action steps. Are you using PIQ idea when it comes to your team? Are you leading by sharing the purpose, influencing, and producing quality employees? Yeah, and I think again, made for more. I know we've talked about this, is that when we show up with organizations or clients, it's all about development. Like we come in and we've came into places where they already have an organization, but maybe they're lacking the development skills, or they're lacking a leadership pipeline or funnel, and we begin to share exercises to develop people.
Right, and I think that's why. I mean, we use this. That's why it exists. That's why Made for More exists, is because we want everybody to know that we can, you know, help people develop their entire team and set up like personal individual goals for each person.
Yeah, and
Especially like your senior management.
I was about to say, you know, if you're the CEO, the owner, yeah, the guys that are higher up, it starts with you too. I mean, like if you're not willing to be developed, then your team is probably not going to be developed.
And that's pretty sad, because
Yeah.
you're responsible for all those people.
Yep, and they got to see you growing though, because again, you open up more doors for people as they elevate your business if you're growing. So if you're not growing, we've always said you're dying. It's morbid,
Boom.
but yeah,
Yeah,
if you're not
you're
growing, you're
dying.
dying.
You're
Seriously,
going,
think about it.
well, you're going one way or the other. It's for sure.
That was chapter 27.
Yes, 28, communicating within the team.
Can you read that again?
Chapter 28, communicating within the team.
I was thinking just the words, because I don't know about you, but like the biggest headache, one of the biggest headaches, not so much, because I hear teams that don't know the purpose, which is huge, because that's foundational. But just beyond that, if you don't communicate, holy crap. Like, you want to know frustration amongst people on your team because you don't communicate?
I think that's the number one like stressor or tension causer on any team, is lack of communication. And I've heard it said, like, you cannot over communicate.
Yeah.
You cannot over communicate.
And think about how one situation,
Oh my gosh.
just like you said, trust can be broken really quick. Think about how one situation, and lack of a text, a conversation, a face-to-face, or saying, hey, that can wait, and something happens and it breaks a team because we failed to communicate.
And it happens all the time
In the simplest ways, right?
in the simplest
And
ways.
you believe the best in your teammates, right? Or your boss, or they believe the best in their employees. But we have to be careful that we gotta communicate. And I think that's what we've talked about in the past, is there's a chain of command, right? The owner's all the way down. And then there's a chain of communication.
Yes.
Should be along the same lines, I believe. But man, if they're not followed, that can get out of whack, and you can be in some, you can mess up a team.
Well, I think that anytime, like, you leave a meeting or anytime you're doing something, always asking yourself, you know, who else needs to know about this?
Yeah.
You know, who do we need to communicate what we've just talked to? Or, you know, I think about with Slab, they have so many different locations. So
Yep.
what does the other location need to know that we
before we do a promotion, right?
Right. Like, you have to think through all of that.
Yeah. And so, for practical purposes, if Adina and I and Jamie and Etiana own a shoe industry, we're not going to start putting commercials on TV about a shoe we've made and not tell our employees or our GMs or our district managers or our regional vice presidents. There's a chain that you have to communicate through.
And I see this,
That's
I
mine.
think that the damage is often done though when there is something changes or when there's an issue.
Yeah.
You know,
Because you get wind of an issue or changes, and then you don't know, and then all of a sudden it catches you off guard because you're just trying to do your job still, and you're like, oh, I'm safe. But we talked about circle of safety with Leaders Eat Last, and it's that circle of safety. It's built on trust, and trust is communication.
And you know what's interesting is that even with the chain of command, I know if I've been in a situation where I've probably known things I should not know. So out of the chain of command, like I'm not in the right order to know that information. It's very weird, you know, to be like, okay, well I know something that you don't know, but I really should know, but you should know. It creates this internal, like, it's just weird.
And you're the person that can see down the road going, there's going to be a collision and it's not going to be good.
Yes.
There was a instance where I had some friends that were outside the country, and they someone that they were with said, hey, this is happening. And the two friends I know go, no, it's not. And this person had they weren't even on the same team. They were just traveling with them. And the two friends of mine found out that that person was right. And they should have known before that other person. And it caused some pretty bad dissension.
Oh,
because
for sure.
It's trust. And even if that person doesn't mean, even if the leader or the boss doesn't mean to break that chain, you have to constantly, like you said, think before this meeting's over, who's next and who needs to know. Ask that question every time. Who needs to know next? Who needs to know next? Even if you get tired of asking that freaking question, it keeps the chain links connected rather than broken. So, but one of the things he talks about in communication that I didn't think about so often is peer-to-peer coaching.
I loved that.
Yeah, because he's saying that we should have enough trust in our team that if I mess up, Adina says, hey, I know that you did it this way, but let me show you, maybe have you thought about it doing it this way because I saw that you were struggling with it.
Right. Or even I think in that being able to say, you know, hey, like, I noticed when you were talking to that person, you know, in a meeting that, you know, you could read that you were frustrated, or you could, you know, like maybe you should resolve some of that within yourself before you, whatever it is, because
what did I tell you when I first met you that your tact sucked?
you weren't quite like that. You said, you need to work on your tact.
Yeah.
I think we had been friends for a while though.
Yeah. And I just said, you
need to work on your tact. And then I was like, okay, but then I was like, no, this is how it's made.
Oh my gosh.
Because listen,
But either way,
like that, you know, then we can go like the lies you believe. People are like, you're this, you're this.
Yeah. Identity. Either way, but communicating, going back to peer-to-peer coaching, I think it starts in the foundation to go, hey, when we set up a team, an organization, a company, you go, hey, this is going to be a company that's ran on teamwork, which means if you have a peer that comes into your life and or into your line of work and says, hey, when it got to us, it was kind of messed up. Can you kind of help show us what happened so we can correct it? You can't get defensive. But we're trying to go peer-to-peer coaching means I'm going to step next to you and go, hey, how can I get this resolved with you? Because there's an issue. Or the positive is, hey, man, you guys are killing it. Great job.
And I think, it only makes your team stronger.
Yep.
You know, I think that is the biggest key in that, is it only makes your team stronger. And if you have that trust among your team, which here's an interesting thing. What about when you have a, you know, kind of a large team? What happens is that usually there's certain people that you kind of have that with, and there's certain people that you don't.
Yep.
You know, and I think that hopefully that everybody on a team has one or two people, but you know,
and I think
you don't?
Again, like you said, trust is key, right? Yeah, trust is key. I think you have to be able to detach emotionally so that you don't get your feelings hurt or you get defensive. But trust is built through relationships. You have to be careful that if you don't know your team, if you're new and you come in trying to tell people that they suck at their job, or hey, you don't know how to do that.
Or I can just do this better than you. You won't last long.
Yeah, you won't. That's an ego. And I would not. I would say please don't do that, because trust is key. And again, if the leader is the only one communicating all the time, that's a problem. Your team has to know what to do. So I put there. What do you think? As far as if your leader's the only one communicating.
What do you mean?
If I'm the owner of the business and I'm the only one communicating.
Oh, wow, no. Well, because I think that in that you have to think about the leader, in theory, should not be communicating with the, let's say, owner, manager, assistant managers, cashiers, busboys. I mean, that's too much. The leader would never be successful. It would never be the right thing.
Yeah.
And I also think that, like, let your leader do what they're good at, which is, you know, typically like vision casting, moving things along, creating momentum. not like the day-to-day details.
Yeah. And so what I wrote down, which I think is crazy because we see it, is your communication is going to be as good as your, I mean, maybe you won't agree with me, but I think your communication is going to be as good as your foundational org chart or organization. Because if you don't know what role or what seat on the bus you play, and you're supposed to communicate next, and you don't know that. So what I'm saying is, if you want a good line of communication, you have to establish a good organizational structure.
I can see that.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because most people that I think that we've helped is they struggle with communication because they go, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to communicate that. No, you are
And
supposed
sometimes
to.
you forget why somebody else would need to know that.
Mhm.
We get so focused on like your area or
Yeah.
whatever it is, you forget like, well, why would they need to know that?
Yeah,
Oh, well, because,
we're a team.
you know,
Yes.
absolutely.
So he gives some pretty cool things about keep in mind when creating a peer-to-peer coaching environment.
Well, and I would say that if this is something that you're not doing in your organization, like I think it's something that you can start kind of putting out there. You know, start
Yes.
talking about building trust amongst your team, give some situations, you know, some situational advice on, you know, how one person on a team can help another person. One of the ways that I can see this happening really well is, I don't remember what week it was, but a couple weeks ago, he talked about, you know, going back and reviewing a project and doing like your lessons learned.
Yeah,
Is
that's right.
even doing that
2 weeks
on
ago.
smaller, like on a smaller scale with like your team and your, that right there, that's peer-to-peer coaching. Because
Yeah.
you're going through saying like, hey, what did you do here? You know, you can kind of work through that together.
Yeah, if it's every shift, like every shift today, hey, somebody's gonna clock out today, so why don't you go over, hey, what'd you do great? What did you have an issue with, or what can we, yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's a good way to start small
Yeah,
before
that's
you're,
good.
you know, telling them something, you know, really
Yeah.
big.
Build up to that. So he says, be an active listener, provide an
Okay.
an affirmation. before
I
providing
actually
advice.
I hate that. They're like, hey,
What's the sandwich thing?
well, yeah, but
Maybe,
he was like, hey, nice throw, but you read the read wrong. No, just say. I mean, like, it just drives me crazy.
I would ask a question instead of doing provide.
I thought the
information. I'd be
same
like,
thing.
hey man, did
Hey.
you get the right read on that? No. Well, the safety was doing this, so
Yeah.
you should have thrown this
Yeah.
pass. But hey,
Hey, that was a heck of a throw. Good arm, though. I can tell you've been working out.
yeah, and it was an
Whatever.
interception. Adina has no
I
idea.
have
what
no
she's talking
idea.
about. So another one is he says, understand the personality of the person you are talking to so you can communicate better, meaning know your people, right? Because if you don't, you have an emotional basket case across the way, and you're not.
That may be somebody you should not peer-to-peer coach very much.
There were times that me and Etiana would sit in the same room, and I'd say, hey, this is going to be a hard conversation. So I could see her preparing
just get her
emotionally,
Kleenex.
right? Because it's hers are words of affirmation, right? So if you have somebody that, you got to know your team.
Mhm.
But I knew that there was, every Monday we'd have a meeting, and there were times where she would give me a heads up, which, man, that was awesome, because I'd go, oh, I'm about to go into a meeting where we dropped the ball, but we'll take ownership, easy. But then when we would have those action steps of how we could get better, sometimes it was more work for us. But me knowing that Etiana is somebody that again, she was building herself up to go, I got to get better at taking criticism. Because sometimes she would just either shut down, leave, or just get angry. But where she's gotten better is to go, hey, that's truth, I can handle it. But she'll also tell you, just let me get over it because this is who I am. But if you are someone who hasn't built up to that, it's okay. But you got to remember that if this is a business, you got to build yourself up to go, I got to detach, because this person doesn't hate me.
It's not about me.
He's trying to fix the action
Yes.
of what we
making-
did
yeah.
not accomplish.
We're trying to be better.
That's tough though. That's one of the tougher ones.
And everybody has their areas that they need to work on.
Yeah. But
And I think that's what's hard. Sometimes we feel like we're the only ones that are like,
no way.
check,
Yes.
all, you know.
But if I didn't have that relationship with Etiana or the other guys that were on my team, and I just came in and just told them, then we'd have an issue. Because I've seen bosses that come in and say something, and the employee that doesn't have a connection with them ends up leaving and crying, and they're still on the team, but there's no connection, and the boss doesn't care. So
Don't do
be
it.
honest with your communication, which is true.
Yes.
Be courageous, a courageous communicator, meaning
Yes.
say the things that are tough to say.
Mhm.
Ask permission to give someone feedback. Ask permission to give someone feedback, meaning So you're communicating to me, and I'm going to go.
Can I give you some
Permission to speak?
Can I give you some feedback?
Yeah,
Well, I think too, though. I think it's good on.
Your tact.
Although, kind of coming back around to say, like maybe next time you could say some more positive things first. Just like that's what Atiana did. She would. What she was saying was her. Her feedback was, you're just going to have to give me some time to get over it.
So.
That was feedback.
I know we're using Atiana.
I know,
like
poor
crazy,
Atiana.
but here's what I'm saying though. Here's what is so frustrating. Is if that person, here it is. If I knew that Atiana was this person because of the relationship, and I ignored that feeling, and I was manipulative, that pisses me off as a leader because you're going, wait, you know that that's your teammate, and you're still stepping all over him. Great job, bro. See how much influence you're gonna have at the end of the day.
Because that's more about you and how you feel and getting your point across.
And you know what that
not
is,
making
right?
the team
I'm a
better.
type A. Bull crap. Screw type A because you're still a leader. You need to adjust your freaking
Message.
yes to deliver to all people. Man, that gets me heated because a leader doesn't need to manipulate. They need to influence people. Sorry.
No, it's funny because I've had several conversations about this, just in other areas. How it keeps coming back. Like you have to have trust on your team. You have to be able to tell your teammates hard things because you're not going to get any better. Those are the people that see, like how you handle things and what's going on and where you need to grow. And if you just shut the door and be like, oh man, this is what they need to do.
Yeah.
That's not helpful to your
No.
team.
And if you're the leader and you want to act that way, wait till you go, how can I get better? And you get a buttload.
We're not even talking about. We're talking about peer to peer.
I got you. I'm just saying, man, that just upsets me. And I'm not even going to get to the Enneagram. But anyways, ask permission, communicate confidently. Meaning, man, have a plan. When you have a meeting, please have a plan. I should.
Pro Wired Electric.
Pro Wired Electric today texted me and he said, hey, are we meeting this week? And I knew he was joking with me. I said, yeah, tomorrow morning. He said, are we winging it? Because he knew that I hate the word winging it. It's dumb. So anyways, communicate with a plan equals communicating effectively, confidently. But then the last one, again, detachment. Leave emotions out of the conversation. That's easier said than done.
Well, that's detaching.
Yep.
I mean, that's
So
It's
remember
hard.
though, all this starts with leader creating a kind of environment that communication can be like harnessed, and it's and what teams should go for.
Okay, let's take time out there because I think that the leader can create the environment. They can talk about this, but if the leader is always stepping in, telling everybody what they've done wrong or what they can improve on or where they failed, you don't give a chance for your peer-to-peer in your teams to like work that out and kind of learn and grow on their own.
Sure.
And
I guess it's the system.
it's the system.
I guess basically, the leader needs to set up the system and explain it and tell it why, but let it play out.
You don't have to be the one, as a leader, you don't have to be the one to solve and answer everything.
Exactly. But I mean, look how long we talked about communication. And I already wrote down we could go on a one-off communication podcast. So action step: do you have your team's trust to create peer-to-peer coaching? Can you have a team meeting to share a creative plan to help the team accept this new way of leading or communicating?
So I heard there is another book. I'm pretty sure that you read it, like the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
I actually started that last night.
And one of the things that talks about in there is to help. God, it sounds terrible, but help to like build the trust on your team is basically you're gonna sit down. You're gonna write out one thing you're really good at and one thing that you need improvement on for everybody on your team, and then you read them.
Wait. I'm writing myself, or you as the owner?
Everybody, all of us would write one about you.
And then,
And then you would write one about you. Don't write one for yourself, but you're one for everybody else.
So it's like telling someone to stand on the chair and say, "Hey, you're
Here's
ugly, but
here's
I
what
like
you're
your hair."
really good at." But
Yeah. Okay.
But it's creates that peer to peer
I'm
environment.
gonna let you stand on the chair and hit you with a rock, but I'll just hit you in the stomach so it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, listen, it's a great book.
It is so far. I mean, I started it
Yeah.
last night. Chapter 29, how leaders must communicate and act in a crisis. Man, this is a really good chapter again. I put that there's some really good quotes in this chapter, and I didn't share any of the quotes.
That's okay.
So go read
Go
the
read
book.
the book. See, we're not reading the book.
So he talks about a gut feeling.
Yes.
So if you're going into a crisis and you have a gut feeling,
Yep.
what do you do?
Well, you listen to your gut and take small steps. One of the things I really liked about this is that one of the things I noticed about his communication is what happens was he was down here, he
was miles away.
Yeah, his troops called and said, "I need you to call in some helicopters. We've got
Someone's shooting at us.
someone's shooting at us," and he
Roof.
was like, "Huh." But what I liked is they said, will you send in the helicopter? And he said, yes, I will send in the helicopter, but I need you to give me a positive identification first.
Yes.
And so, but I like because I feel like, right, that he diffused it right then. Yes, I'm going to send a helicopter.
And it was his tone, right?
Yes, and he was like, because I'm sure that guy was panicked.
Yeah, they were
but
saying
he was
tick,
calm,
tick,
and he
tick.
was cool, and
Yes.
but it was that he assured them, yes, I will, but I need you to give me a positive identification.
And when everybody
boom.
calmed down, right? Because he talked to him the right way.
He listened to his gut.
Yeah.
He didn't panic. He didn't fly into go
Yes.
mode.
Yeah. And what happened? It was friendly fire.
Yes.
They were on the same team.
Yep.
And if he would have brought in helicopters, he would have killed American Marines.
Well, he talks about how like your experience the longer you've been in something, you kind of learn how to read those situations. And I was like, that is a really good example when somebody calls you panic. Just I'll do that.
It's
for
okay
you.
to let something develop, right? Like you said, let it develop, but keep an eye on that. They're waiting for you to make a call.
And all that was in like a few minutes.
Yeah, your team's counting. Yeah, I love that. I go back to Jocko because he said that he was on his headset. He's hearing people say, "Troops in contact, we need help." And then you hear Leif on there saying, "Hey man, we got some bad guys." And then Jocko just comes on board and says, "Hey, calm down. We're about to make a call." And they're over there yelling.
We're about
and
to
Jocko's
down.
Jocko's just talking to the guy. And I'm going, yeah, that because you're the leader, so they're looking for you to go, hey, remember what you were trying to do. Just chill out. But you're in the life of that
Yes.
situation. So
Everybody take a deep breath and count to 5.
yeah, that'd be crazy. So in a crisis, your team needs you to make the call. But as a leader, you must communicate clear, calm, encouraging. You have to be decisive. You have to be confident in the unconfident times, right?
Yes.
Make a call and communicate calmly and clearly. So, I mean, I don't know what you would say a crisis is in.
I think
people we work
everything
with.
is different. I mean, I think everything is different. But like I said, in that, and also he didn't say like, wasn't this whole big speech? Now, are you sure? Tell me what the guys are wearing on the roof. It was just like, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah, I think for us in the world that we've been in is, hey, so-and-so's in the hospital, I need you up here right now. Okay, think about it. If I get there right now, I can't do anything. Let me get my family together. And I think to that person, it's a crisis. So how you say it is, hey, I'm on my way, give me a second. But if you act in crisis mode when they're in crisis mode, everybody's going crazy.
Yeah, I've had that same thing where it'll be somebody's at the ER, and in my mind I'm thinking, you're going to be gone by the time I get there, for sure. Communication is key in a crisis. That is for sure. I mean, I think it's one of those things that whenever something's going on, communication is what keeps your team like in check. That's what keeps your team calm. They're looking to you as a leader to be calm and to kind of be that mainstay,
Yeah, you're the.
I don't know. I'm like yes.
Yeah, the lighthouse
yes,
that's trying to show them.
It's
Hey,
so many times if your leader is panicking or even just being like crappy about something, it makes a huge difference in how your team, they handle it.
Yep. They're looking to you, like you are the person they're looking to. So
yeah, we got a lot going on. Everybody just like, we got this.
Yeah.
You instead of like, we're in crisis mode and we're never gonna make it.
yeah, our teams are counting on us to fill them, and when we lead them. So I put, when a decision is made, communicate. When you're unsure, communicate. When you're waiting, you need to communicate still.
Communicate.
Yes. So don't just communicate to your employees, but the cool thing that I remember about this is he said also the customers, the people that are buying your product, may communicate to them, keep them in the loop so that you're building trust and your loyalty with your brand, with your customers. Because if your customers don't know that anything new is coming out, or you don't have like a VIP pass or whatever, they're going to be in the dark. So action step, are you calm, collected, and confident when you communicate to your team?
Yep.
Simple. So chapter 30.
Yes, the empathetic leader.
Empathetic leader.
Yes. I like that you simply put, it's know your team.
Do you know your team? And there's a quote at the very beginning of the chapter. It says, too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. I don't even know how to say his name. Leo Buscaglia.
And you know what? We've said this time and time again. It goes back to know your team.
Yep.
Know your team, know your people. I mean, it's the same. We say this all the time.
Leaders eat last to start with wine. Get out of your office and
Yes.
go talk
Yes,
to them.
and
boots on the ground.
he says, read less
Stop reading
reports.
reports.
Yes, and
Stop-
go read your people.
Yeah, read your people.
Yeah,
Like,
for
do
sure.
you know them? When something's off, ask them. When you feel like there's an employee off or a team member, hey, what's going on? Have courage to ask them what's going on. Our team should trust us, and when they do, they'll open up. If we want them to open up to us, we can. I think manipulation is saying, hey, I'm going to catch you doing something, and then they're going to open up and go, well, this is why I did it. No, why don't you talk to them so you don't have to manipulate them into telling you what's going on. Just say, hey, what's going on? What's happening in your life?
And
So,
people
yeah.
can feel an insincere, like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
You don't really care. Let's just get this
Yeah.
going on the road. It says empathy is about knowing your people, caring for your people, and building trust. 100%.
Exactly. And I think the other thing that you were just saying though, as far as they can smell it from a mile away,
Oh my gosh, yes.
is it's like in the practical way is if your boss never calls you and then you see their, like right now, if your boss called you, well, what is going through your mind when their name pops up, right? We've asked that before. So if it's just to say what's up, cool. But if they never do that, then it's going to be off and odd, and you're going to go, what do they want from me?
Yes, why
That's
are they
not
calling?
Yep. Exactly.
And most of we've said that whatever book that was, really, if your boss is calling and you're like,
That was,
what in the
when
world
you're
is
not in
going on?
charge.
I'm like, somebody's dead.
Yeah,
I mean,
leading when you're not in charge.
100%.
We have to do this through team setting, through one-on-ones. You can communicate. You can be an empathetic leader by one-on-ones, meeting with the entire team. It doesn't happen behind your desk. It starts by getting out and going into their team, into where they're working. And I put a keynote in there is you don't have to be a pushover. You're not trying to be a pushover. You're not telling them what to do, but it means you have to keep them. You're accountable for their actions, meaning you're taking ownership over everything they do. So it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate. But if you don't know them and you're trying to get them to comply with what your team's trying to do, but you don't know them, you're going to have a difficult time doing that.
So we say this all the time, like, know your team, have the one-on-ones. I mean, if you're not already doing that, do it now.
Please do that. Yeah. You're missing out
yes.
on a lot of things.
Yes.
Which is number one is communication. Action step, do you spend time getting to know your team and teammates at all? Like, what do you do as an owner, as a manager, as a business, or even as an employee? What are they doing to get to know you? And how can you do this week? Like, write down some practical ways. If you need help with that, you can email any of us, info@madeformoreconsulting.com, the number 4, and we can help you with that and how we've helped people just do one-on-ones and team meetings. Some require weekly, some require bi-weekly, some are quarterly. But it's good and important.
Well, yeah, and I also think we talk about like having one-on-ones, and if you don't know how to have a one-on-one, if that you're like, I don't know what I would do, we can help you with that.
Yeah, it's have a plan, and you again, like we said earlier, going into a meeting confident because you have a plan.
Yep.
So leaders must. Oh, never mind. Chapter 31.
Yes, stay connected. Leaders must stay engaged with employees. I will tell you what. One of the things he talked about in this chapter was how when he was in the military, he would go visit the soldiers. He would take a picture of the soldier,
Yeah, and send it to
and then
their family, right?
he would mail it to their family with a handwritten note. I'm like, that is like some dedication right there.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that is really, like, to me, staying connected, and even the one of like, you're building a lot of trust,
Yep. But
and
that's it, right? Trust.
yes, and
So
it just took him a few minutes.
yeah, and just thinking outside the box of how you can be connected to your people. Like think outside the box. Not everybody is going to have a 9 to 5, or because again, if you're a morning manager and you have people that come in in the evening, you're going to have to work evenings. You got to think outside the box. Again, like you said, leaders must stay engaged with employees, but then business owners must stay engaged with the customers. What does your customer base want? What are their needs? This is something so simple, but we often forget that we are in the people business, regardless of what our calling is, whether it's electrical, barbecue,
Whatever
consulting,
it is,
whatever it
we
is,
serve
you're in
people.
the people business. Know your people.
Serve and support your people. That's
Yep.
leadership.
There you go. We're here to engage and serve people.
Yeah,
When you do that.
I thought he had some great examples. He kind of went old school and talked about, was it Dale Carnegie that he talked about? How your name is the most important word to you,
Yeah.
But it's that whole, like, goes way back, like, remember your
remember
customer's name.
Yes.
I went in somewhere the other day and had lunch, and she was like, she read my order off, and I'm like, I hardly ever come here, like
Yeah.
once a month.
Maybe she's a stalker.
Well, I don't know. Probably because I'm always with you, like.
Where? Oh, I know where.
Because I never go there. But I was like, okay, but it really did. It really was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, it's even that same, like that friendly, like, hey, how are you?
But even when everything's tied together to your phone number and your credit card, go
Yes.
above and beyond and call their name, right?
Yep.
Say by their name.
Yep.
I remember being in student ministry, and I'd remember all the kids' names, and my wife would always say, hey, how do you remember all their names? I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
It's like Michael
I
Scott.
bust out a little paper.
Michael
write it
Scott would
down.
always say, he's way inappropriate. He would say like, mole guy, Mike. Mike has the mole on his face, the mole guy. And he was
Whatever you have to do to remember their name, just keep it in your brain.
Yeah, and then just say their name. Don't say how you remember.
Yeah, now he goes, who was that?
Yeah.
Mole guy Mike.
I know. And I'm like, hey, who was that person? So what are some ways that we can stay connected and get better at staying connected with our teams of people?
Well, I mean, the example he gave was like remember their names. I mean, like and
Yes.
like, and I don't think it goes beyond their name. Like remember something about them.
I'd say their birthday and their
And
anniversary.
we've talked about that before. Like if you ask somebody, like, hey, how's your week? And they say, you know, my dog got hit by a car.
Send
How
them a
about the
dog.
next week
Go
you
give
ask
them
them
your dog.
about their dog?
Yes.
You know.
I think for me, one of the things that I got some positive feedback was knowing anniversaries.
Mhm.
Like,
Work
hey, this is your work
anniversaries.
anniversary, or hey, this is your birthday, or hey, this is someone's death anniversary. Just you say, hey, I'm thinking of you. And I put that on 30, 60, 90, and I just put repeat so it keeps coming up every year. Simple, practical step. It's not manipulation, it's influence because you're trying to build
Well, because you really care about those people. It's not like
Oh, yeah.
you're like looking
I'm
at
not just
the names
looking
in
at
the
some
obituary, like
person.
newspaper or whatever. Like they're like people that are in your life.
Yes. So think outside the box, trying to build connection with your team. Action step, create a practical list of 3 things you can do this week to become better engaged with your customer, your employees, your family, and your friends. Like my daughter,
Boom.
she likes to play Uno, and she beat me, what was that, Monday? Sam beat the out of me on Uno. We had, what did we have to eat? She made her, we ordered pizza. We had heartburn all night. It's her fault. Heartburn, Uno, and we watched, maybe it was The Office. I don't remember. But anyways, we had a daddy-daughter date, and my wife had a daughter-daughter date with the other one. So, again, it's just how do you gotta get to know your family, your friends, customers,
Sure.
employees. So, man,
I thought that was a long one.
I don't know because something's going on with the recording, but we'll figure it out here in a second. Hopefully we'll figure it out in a second because we're not gonna record this
No,
again.
we're not.
But guys, thanks for listening. We have one last episode, episode 59 will be on competence, the last section of this book. So guys, make sure you please go follow this guy, John L. Gronsky. Make sure you buy this book, Iron Sharpened Leadership. Share it with your team, share it with your boss. Man, if you want one of ours, here it is. If you want this book.
Somebody
we have
already
2
asked me
books.
for mine.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, well I'm gonna give away my book
And I told him I said I'll give it to you.
if you message us,
Uh-huh.
or you message me, Mario at madeformoreconsulting.com. That's the number 4.
I guess we said it like last week, and
Yeah,
he
we
was,
did.
or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And
So
he
if you
was like,
email
hey.
me and say I'm interested in that book, I'll just mail it to you. As long as you're within the U.S. and we're not having to pay.
Okay,
international.
come on.
So guys, that's this podcast. As far as wrapping up, we have a website, madeformoreconsulting.com with the number 4. And there you can follow us on our socials. You can listen to our podcast. You can look at our services. You can just see some of the things that we're doing. There's pictures on our Instagram that are pretty legit. We've shared some pretty cool things.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh,
Remember.
no, hold on. Last shout out. Last shout out. We didn't do much shout outs
Oh,
today.
there we go.
But the shout out today, Slab opened their new location in the bowling alley. It was amazing. Just something about bowling and barbecue. It's pretty cool. They call it slow-lo and bowling.
That's
Bowling.
so good.
So it was good. It was cool to see so many people just eating lunch there. So if you're in Austin and you're near Westgate Lanes in Westgate, out there off of Manchac or what is that road? I forgot. Anyways, Westgate Lanes and Slab, they teamed up. They're there. So so proud of our clients. Thanks for letting us invest. Let us know if you need anything. Info at madeformoreconsulting.com. Thanks for listening. Remember, we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. Later.
Bye, guys.
It says 17 minutes, but every time it does that, I think I know, Tatiana. It was weird because I didn't even touch it. So
Did you get kicked off the internet?
No, usually it's
I got
this.
kicked off and I had to like relog back on. Hi, YouTube.
Oh, bye, YouTube.
Oh, that's scary.